Hi, I'm Sean, and I'm going to be talking to you about stretching and the benefits of stretching. And during the presentation, I'll be demonstrating some stretches just to illustrate some concepts, and you can follow along as an activity. There's so many different opinions on stretching, and some of the studies are contradictory, and there's a lot of beliefs out there, but it's generally believed that stretching can be used to enhance physical performance in sports, to prevent injury, to alleviate muscle soreness, and to increase flexibility and range of motion. But what's true about stretching, we have to take a look at studies, and we'll be looking at some of those in this presentation. Static stretching is traditionally preferred when warming up for sporting events and physical activity, but dynamic stretching is also out there, and it's a little bit popular as well. And here's some background information on the different kind of stretching. Now, static stretching and dynamic stretching are different in that static stretching is held for a longer time period. Dynamic stretching is a back and forth motion. I'm going to demonstrate a hamstring stretch, both statically and dynamically, so please feel free to follow along in the activity. So here's the static version. This is going to be held for 30 seconds, so we'll just wait. Yeah, I can really feel it lengthening. And the antagonist muscle I can feel contracting, the quadriceps. So that's the static version, and here's the dynamic version. It's back and forth motion, not held for a long time. I like the static a lot better. That's just me. Now, aside from sports, stretching is also important for older adults. And a loss of flexibility in older adults can lead to a lot of problems like difficulty performing basic tasks like combing hair, putting on shoes, and it can cause negative gait patterns like walking and postural problems. And this can lead to falls, which can lead to a lot of other bad things like breaking bones. So it's very important for older people to do stretching. And according to the study in my paper that I looked at, 8 weeks of training with static stretching will help older people in improving flexibility and overall functional fitness. Well, for older women, this study was for older women. So back to sports, and a study I looked at it was a study on football players, and there were 4 variables that were looked at. There was flexibility, agility, fatigue index, and anaerobic performance. So fatigue index is just a decrease in power output over time for an athlete. And anaerobic performance it was measured by sprint testing. So how they did this study was static and dynamic stretches were added to the usual football warm-ups, which were just aerobic running. And it was observed that aerobic running combined with static or dynamic stretching increased flexibility more than just their regular warm-up, which was only aerobic running. So for agility, both static and dynamic helped. An important finding also was that when aerobic running is combined with static stretching, fatigue index went down, and that's a positive thing. And the study also concluded that static stretching exercises, only static stretching increased agility. The only negative thing that static stretches did in this study was on anaerobic performance. Anaerobic performance decreased. And for dynamic stretching on anaerobic performance, that was inconclusive in this study. So overall for this study in football players, static stretching was a little bit better, but stretching has an overall positive effect in most variables. There's really only one negative thing that was found. And for a final activity, let's do a hip flexor stretch. So it's kind of a lunge. Now the stretch is going to be felt in the back leg here, where it's stretching the hip flexors like the quadricep groove, and the internal hip flexors like the iliacus muscle and psoas. And I like to protect my back and stop myself from lordosing by forcing myself to do a posterior pelvic tilt. And that also deepens the stretch for me. So please feel free to follow along. I'm holding this for a while, so it is a static stretch. I'll do the other side. I'd like to conclude this presentation in saying that static stretching is important in older adults, and it's beneficial to football players. And thank you for watching my presentation.